A human warrior won the heart of an alien queen, and the war began. The arena was ready. But he wasn't there to fight. It was supposed to be a trial by combat. The first human ever allowed on Veltraxis, the crystal-covered throne world of the proud Veltraxi matriarch, stood in the center of a glowing circle, surrounded by thousands of silent, watching eyes. He was alone. No weapons, no armor. Just a tight-fitting uniform that showed off his earth-forged strength. And more than a few Veltraxi noticed that right away. Captain Jackson Rain didn't flinch. He looked up, calm, unreadable. This wasn't his first time standing in front of a crowd expecting him to fail. But this time, he wasn't just a soldier. From Earth, he was the subject of a royal challenge. A duel not of blades or blood but of the mind. Veltraxi duels were psychic. They called it a soul strike, a test of willpower, focus, and mental force. No one from Earth had ever taken part before. And most Veltraxi in the audience expected the human to scream, collapse, or melt into madness the moment it began. But Jackson wasn't built like other men, genetically modified for deep space exploration, enhanced for survival and, let's say, interpersonal diplomacy. He had something no male on Veltraxis could offer: deep emotional presence, and a mind that ran hot with intensity. When the Empress herself entered the circle, the air changed. Even without touching him, Jackson felt her power. She was tall, elegant, and glowing faintly violet under the arena lights. Her eyes locked on his with the focus of a predator and a queen. The duel began without a word. It was like a wave of pressure slamming into Jackson's brain, sharp, cold, precise. She was testing his limits, looking for weakness. But instead of fighting back the way her opponents usually did, Jackson did something strange. He leaned in, not physically, but mentally. His thoughts reached out, not to fight, but to connect. "See you," his thoughts whispered. Not just the Empress. The woman underneath it hit her like a shock. For a moment her power faltered. No one had ever dared speak to her like that, not with their voice, and certainly not with their soul. Her breath caught in her throat. She gasped, not from pain. It was something else, something warm. Jackson didn't press. He didn't try to dominate. He let her feel what no Veltraxi had ever felt in a dual comfort desire. The deep, strong presence of a human mind that wasn't afraid of her, that wanted her not just to win but to know her. The Empress blinked. Her gaze wavered for the first time in decades. Across the arena, the High Matrons whispered nervously. Something was wrong. This wasn't how a duel was supposed to go. Jackson took a single step forward. The link deepened. He didn't need to say anything. His body said enough. Broad-shouldered, earth-built. The kind of male no Veltraxi had evolved to handle, especially not in private. The Empress's lips parted slightly. Her skin shimmered brighter, a reaction to emotions she had spent years hiding. Heat, curiosity, a rush of something she never expected to feel in front of her entire empire. Arousal. The duel ended itself. Her mind pulled back, overwhelmed. Jackson stood still, relaxed. He hadn't broken her defenses. She had lowered them. The arena stayed quiet for a full minute, then murmurs, whispers, confusion. But the Empress didn't say a word. She simply looked at Jackson, eyes unreadable, and gave the slightest nod. Not of anger, not of defeat, interest. And as she turned to leave the circle, a faint, private smile played on her lips. He was no ordinary alien. He was human, and he had just touched something no Veltraxi ever had. She didn't speak to him after the duel. Not then. Not in front of the court. She vanished behind a wall of shimmering guards and crystal doors, her expression once again cool and unreadable. But that night, as the moons of Veltraxis hung low and pale above the spires of the Imperial Palace, a message came. Silent, direct, a pulse through Jackson's mind. Come, alone. He didn't ask where. The moment he stepped out of his quarters, the Empress's guard, silver-skinned, four-armed warriors bred for absolute obedience, appeared from the shadows and led him through winding halls lit with soft, bioluminescent vines. He was taken not to a throne room, but to a garden, a private one, hidden under a dome of glass and starlight. Alien flowers glowed in colors he didn't have words for. Pools of shimmering liquid hummed with energy. And at the center of it all, barefoot and without her usual regal armor, stood the Empress. Jackson stopped a few steps away, unsure if this was another test, but she didn't command, didn't lecture. She just looked at him. "Tell me," she said softly, her voice nothing like the public broadcasts he'd heard before. "What are you?" Jackson tilted his head. "You mean besides human, tall, charming, annoyingly stubborn?" She smirked. "A real one, quick, small, but real. I felt things today I wasn't prepared for," she said. "Things Veltraxi minds aren't supposed to feel." "I didn't do it to hurt you," Jackson replied. "I just let you in." "No one's ever let me in like that," she said. "Not willingly, not fully." There was a pause between them. Charged, quiet, she stepped closer. "I scanned your neural patterns, studied the heat signatures from your body. Your biology is chaotic, intense, raw." Jackson chuckled. "That's a fancy way of saying I've run hot." "I'm saying," she said slowly, "that you're unlike anything in this galaxy, and that's dangerous." Another step, now they were close. Her eyes, deep purple, shot with gold, searched his face. She wasn't just analyzing, she was feeling. What exactly are you afraid of? He asked. That I might want more, she whispered. And that once I have it, I won't want to give it back. She lifted a hand, touched his chest, lightly, just fingertips. But even through the thin fabric of his shirt, the connection snapped into place again. Mental, physical, electric. She gasped again, this time, not from shock, but from recognition. It's not just thought, she breathed. You project ... need. Jackson smiled faintly. I'm human. We're kind of good at wanting things. Her gaze fell lower. Her voice dropped a note. So I've noticed. Silence stretched again. A velvet rope pulled tight between them. I've ruled a planet for over a century, she said, her hand still on his chest. I've conquered armies, crushed rebellion, rewritten laws, but nothing ... nothing prepared me for the way your presence unsettles me. Jackson leaned in slightly, his voice low and warm. Maybe it's not unsettling. Maybe it's awakening. She blinked, her breath caught, and then finally she pulled him in. No orders, no royal commands. Just two bodies finding the space between stars. The kiss that followed wasn't gentle, it was war. But the kind of war both sides wanted to lose. Asterisk, they didn't speak afterward, not right away. The moment stretched like the surface of still water, delicate, trembling with hidden depth. The garden was silent, save for the soft buzz of alien fireflies and the hum of energy pools around them. The Empress stood with her forehead resting lightly against Jackson's. Her fingers were still tangled in his shirt, and her breathing was uneven, shallow, and rapid, like she'd just sprinted through a battlefield. He felt her heart against his chest. It was faster than he expected. Good, so it wasn't just him. I've never done that before, she murmured. Jackson raised an eyebrow. Kissed someone, wanted someone. Now that made him pause, not out of pride, but because he could feel the truth behind it, not just in her words, but in the mental link still softly humming between them. She wasn't just opening up, she was unraveling, and the wildest part, she didn't hate it. I thought your kind didn't form attachments, he said, brushing a thumb along her jaw. That Veltraxi didn't do ... This we don't. Her voice was sharp, clipped, but then she softened. Because no one ever made us feel safe enough to try. Jackson smiled, just a little. Guess that makes me a first. You're more than a first. She looked up at him. You're a disruption. That drew a grin. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me in a glowing space garden after making out. The Empress actually laughed, a light sound, half surprised, half horrified at herself. I could have you executed for that kind of comment, she said, but you won't. She shook her head. No, because it's true. Jackson stepped back slightly, letting her catch her breath. So now what? He asked. You've kissed the alien. Your entire royal court's gonna riot if they find out. She turned away, for a moment, facing the crystal dome that shimmered like a diamond sky. They already know. Jackson blinked. They watched us. No, but they watched me. After the duel. After the ... shift. What shift? She turned back to him. Her eyes weren't cold anymore. They burned. I can't stop thinking about you. Jackson's smirk faded. The air between them thickened. Is that a problem? He asked. It's an evolution, she said. One I didn't plan for. He stepped close again, his voice low. What's got you more scared? The fact you're feeling something, or the fact that I might be feeling it back? She didn't answer. She didn't have to. Instead, she reached up and pressed her fingers to his temple link. Instantly, his mind was filled with flashes of her memory, images of her childhood alone on a throne by age 16, her first battle, her first betrayal, the coldness that followed. But then, his own thoughts began to leak into hers. A lonely childhood on Earth, the loss of his mother, the training, the pain, the modifications, his quiet wish for something more than war. The Empress gasped again, but this time she didn't pull away. You're not what I expected, she said, and you're more than I imagined, he replied a moment. Past, quiet, sacred. She finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. Come to my chambers tomorrow, midnight, no guards, no rules. Jackson leaned in, brushed a kiss against her neck. I'll bring flowers, he said. She shivered. Don't, she whispered. Bring yourself. And just like that, she vanished into the shadows, leaving behind the scent of her skin, the heat of her lips, and the wild certainty that something cosmic had just changed forever. Asterisk, Jackson didn't sleep that night. Not from nerves, from anticipation. Midnight couldn't come fast enough. The hours crawled by as he paced his room, staring at the polished glass ceiling, his mind replaying the Empress's voice on loop. No gods, no rules, bring yourself. He didn't know exactly what to expect, but whatever it was, he knew. It wouldn't be formal, wouldn't be diplomatic, wouldn't be safe. When the twin moons of Veltraxis finally lined up in the sky, casting long shadows over the crystalline towers, he made his way through the palace. No escort this time, just his boots on smooth marble and his heartbeat thumping like war drums in his chest. He found her chambers open, waiting. Inside, the light was dim, soft, warm. Alien fabrics hung from the ceiling like floating clouds, and The scent of sweet nectar filled the air, subtle, dizzying. She was already there, not on a throne, not in armor, wrapped in sheer violet silk that shimmered like her skin. She sat cross-legged on a low platform of pillows and iridescent furs. Her long white hair spilled over her bare shoulders, and for once, her expression was free of masks. She looked vulnerable, and even more dangerous because of it. Jackson stepped inside, slowly. So, no royal guards hiding behind the curtains. The Empress smiled faintly. Only me, and you. He approached, cautious but curious. Why me? She looked up at him, her eyes glowing in the dim light. Because I've ruled this planet with my mind and my voice. I've never once ruled with my heart, because I've never trusted anyone with it. Jackson sat beside her, close enough to feel her warmth. And now, I don't know, she admitted. But I feel something. Something alive. Wild. It scares me. And I hate that it scares me. But I can't stop wanting it. He reached for her hand, slowly. Their fingers met. Her skin was warmer than it had been in the garden, flushed, sensitive. Then maybe don't fight it, he said. I don't know how not to. He leaned closer. Let me teach you. That was all the permission she needed. She pulled him in, hungry now, not hesitant. Her lips claimed his like she'd been holding back for centuries. Her hand slid beneath his shirt, exploring the hard lines of his body with a mixture of curiosity and greed. Jackson responded in kind. The silk slipped off her shoulder, revealing the soft shimmer of her skin beneath. She gasped as he kissed, along her collarbone, her nails digging lightly into his back. Her telepathic field flared without warning, her emotions too intense to contain. Jackson's thoughts were flooded with waves of desire, fear, longing, heat. But he held firm. He didn't push, didn't dominate. He anchored her, his presence like gravity pulling her in, but never caging her. You're so much, she breathed. It's like your body was built to overwhelm. He grinned against her neck. We come from a long line of overachievers. She laughed again, short, breathy, helpless. Then she kissed him harder, with a need that was centuries overdue. The night blurred. Silken sheets, gasps, heat, connection, not just flesh on flesh, mind on mind, heart on heart. And afterward, in the quiet glow of her chamber tangled together, beneath layers of warmth, the Empress whispered the words that sealed it all. I don't care what they say. You're not just a disruption anymore. Jackson brushed a kiss against her temple. What am I now? He murmured. She looked up at him with glowing eyes and said, You're mine. Asterisk. The palace buzzed with rumors before dawn. Whispers slithered through the corridors like smoke, dangerous, impossible to catch. Servants avoided eye contact. Advisors exchanged nervous glances. And in the High Matron Council Hall, the air was colder than usual. They all knew not the details. Not yet. But they knew something had happened. Something intimate. The Empress, cold, untouchable, divine, had broken tradition. She hadn't returned to her quarters until morning. Her silk robe was wrinkled, her walk softer, her aura glowing, with a warmth that hadn't been there in over a century. And the human, Captain Jackson reigned. He strolled through the palace halls like a man who had nothing left to prove, maybe something to protect. It didn't take long. Later that day, a summons arrived, but it wasn't from the Empress. It came from the council, a formal request, more like a challenge for Jackson to appear in front of the High Matrons alone. He entered their hall calmly. No armor, just that signature half-smile and a posture that said, I'm not here to bow unless you earn it. The chamber was full. Dozens of matrons, their gowns gleaming with status, their psychic fields pulsing with judgment. One of them stood Lady Varel, ancient and sharped, known for making war generals cry. You broke sacred boundaries, she said coldly. You touched our Empress, you linked with her. What gives you the right? Jackson didn't flinch. He looked her dead in the eyes and said, I didn't take anything. She chose me. The room stirred. Another matron, younger, hissed. A choice she wasn't meant to have. Maybe, Jackson said calmly. It's time she did. Gasps, fury. A ripple of mental static surged across the room as half the council attempted to intimidate him psychically. Jackson felt the pressure. Felt the heat behind his eyes, the tightening in his temples, and then she walked in, the Empress, regal, effortless, dangerous. Her presence was like a sword through fog, cutting through tension with one step. She didn't look at Jackson. Not at first. She stood between him and the matrons, her voice cool and final. This council forgets its place. Silence, instant and absolute. You do not summon my consort without my consent. Now Jackson raised an eyebrow. Consort. That was a loaded word, the Empress continued. He has done nothing dishonorable, nothing that wasn't invited. But he's an outsider, Varel snapped. A primitive. The Empress turned, slowly, her gaze razor sharp. His biology makes him strong. His heart makes him dangerous. His mind. She looked at Jackson now, and something flickered behind her eyes. Something no one had ever seen. Affection, pride, possession, makes him mine. Gasps echoed again. One matron actually dropped her glass. The Empress walked to Jackson and took his hand, before the entire court. Bold, blasphemous, glorious. Let them whisper, she said quietly. Let them threaten. Jackson leaned in and whispered back. Let them try. Because in that moment, something bigger than scandal had been born. This wasn't just about desire anymore, it was war, not between empires, between old ways, and what was coming next. The court was in uproar by nightfall. News spread like plasma, fire through every tier of the palace. The empress had taken a consort, not just any consort, but a human, unbonded, unregistered, unbroken by the old ways. The matron guard tried to contain the whispers. They failed because nothing could contain the truth. She had chosen him, publicly, physically, emotionally, and, worse, she'd defended him. To the Veltraxi elite, that was treason. To the empress, that was love or something dangerously close to it. While the nobility choked on their pearl wine and ancient codes, Jackson stood at the edge of the grand balcony, looking down at the endless crystalline city glowing under the twin moons. You could feel it coming. The pressure, the backlash, the next strike, and he was right. Captain Rain, a voice barked behind him. He turned to see a unit of red-robed honor blades agents of the inner court marching toward him with blasters, primed in pistis ruptors glowing cold blue. You are under arrest by decree of the council. Charges: cultural violation, psychic intrusion, biological manipulation of the crowned mind, and unregulated bonding. Jackson raised one brow. That's a long list for kissing someone who kissed me back. The lead guard didn't smile. We can do this with grace. Or with restraint, Fields. Before Jackson could answer, a surge of pressure hit the air. Then came the voice. That unmistakable voice, calm, feminine, royal. No one touches him. The empress descended the spiral path from her tower, robe billowing behind her like liquid moonlight. Her feet made no sound on the obsidian glass. Her eyes sharp, violet, firelit locked onto the guards like she'd just decided who would die last. Stand down, she said. The honor blades hesitated. One of them tried to protest. She cut him off with a single glance. A subtle pulse of her psychic field rippled out and cracked the stone. Beneath their feet they froze. Wisely she walked straight to Jackson and, without asking, slipped her hand. Into his. Warned him this day would come, she said quietly to him. A new path, a new bloodline, they laughed. Until you. Jackson squeezed her fingers. So what now, Your Majesty? She turned to the guards. Tell the council I decline their summons, and I reject their authority over my bond. If they wish to challenge me, let them do it on the field or in my mind. Either way, they will lose. The guards bowed deep and terrified and vanished without another word. Alone again, she pulled Jackson close, eyes searching as like she was still trying to figure out where he came from, why she couldn't get enough of him. I've shattered centuries of tradition, she said. For you. He touched her cheek, voice steady. Then let's make it worth the ruins. She smiled a rare, radiant, truly wicked smile. Oh, I intend to. But deep down, they both knew this was more than scandal now. This was war, not fought with fleets or lasers, but with ideas, but bloodlines. And if the Veltraxi nobility thought the Empress was dangerous before, they hadn't seen what she became with her human by her side. The rebellion didn't come with a bang. It came with a vote. A secret session of the Matron High Council convened in the veiled chamber, a sanctum so ancient it didn't even appear on modern maps. 12 seats, 12 voices. No empress, no oversight, just power, brewed behind curtains and protocol. The verdict: the Empress is compromised. The bond with the human must be severed by force, if necessary. Within hours, ships were mobilized. Not the main fleet, these were cloak class, invisible to palace sensors, silent, surgical, designed for extraction, not battle. Jackson, of course, had no idea. Not yet. He lay in the Empress's bedchamber, her body draped lazily across his bare skin against smooth silk, twin moons glowing through the high dome ceiling. He traced a lazy finger along the edge of her hip, marveling at how soft someone so feared could be. I think your spine is trying to kill me, he muttered, cheek resting against her shoulder. She laughed. You did challenge the mind of a galactic sovereign and live. Be grateful it's only my spine you're fighting now. I'd rather fight that again than the court, Jackson said, more serious now. They won't let this stand. They'll try to shame me, strip me of authority, paint you as a parasite. They won't be wrong. He grinned. I have latched on pretty tight. She rolled over, straddling him, her silver white hair falling like a curtain round their faces. You didn't latch on, she whispered. You fit in mind, in body, even in the places I didn't know were empty. He exhaled. That's a lot coming from a woman who nearly erased me psychically during foreplay. You liked it. Maybe a little, but then silence. The kind that wasn't right. The kind trained soldiers felt before they saw it. Jackson bolted upright. The Empress froze. Outside. No alarms, no lights. Just a stillness far too careful for coincidence. And then movement. Black hammered. Figures uncloaking at the balcony for no. 6.1 dropped silently, a needle blade drawn. Another held a pulse spear aimed directly at Jackson's chest. Jackson moved fast, earth fast, human fast. He grabbed the first attacker by the wrist and twisted bone snapped with a wet crunch. The pulse spear discharged, but missed, vaporizing a crystal column instead. The Empress was already standing naked, glowing, furious. With a flick of her wrist, she unleashed a mind scream. 3 assassins dropped instantly, blood leaking from their ears. The remaining 2 hesitated. Fatal mistake. Jackson lunged, using the broken spear shaft as a club. One attacker slammed into the wall. The other tried to flee, only to be ripped back into the room by invisible force. The Empress's eyes glowed gold and violet. "Who sent you?" The assassin didn't speak. His mind was locked. She growled. "Council-grade psychic blocks, cowards." Jackson checked the dead attacker's wrist. Embedded inside a glyph with the Council's crest. Subtle, hidden, not enough. "They came for me," he said. "No," the Empress corrected, pulling on a cloak. "They came for us. And now, they'll see what happens when they try to take what's mine." She turned to him, fierce and alive. "They thought I was dangerous before," he nodded. "They forgot you have backup now." She stepped into him, kissed him hard. "Then let's show them what happens when a queen finds a king she actually wants to keep." Because now it wasn't just a scandal. It wasn't just a bond. It was a revolution. And it was about to be beautifully violent. The war wasn't waged in space. Not this one. It unfolded in minds. Across Senate halls, between whispered oaths and shattered traditions. It was a confrontation. But the battlefield was elegant, deadly in its restraint. Within days of the failed assassination, the Empress invoked the right of binding, an ancient Veltraxi law unused for 600 years. It allowed a sovereign to legally merge her fate with another. It was meant for politics, treaties, emergency succession. She used it for love and for defiance before the full council. She stood in her ceremonial armor, sleeveless, regal, radiant. Beside her stood Jackson. No crown, no military garb, just a dark tunic, a ceremonial blade strapped across his back, and a calm, unreadable face that made even the most venomous matrons hesitate. She raised her voice, and it echoed across the amphitheater. "I was chosen to rule by blood, by mind, by strength. But what is strength if it bows to fear? What is legacy if it shuns evolution? Murmurs, hisses, silence. This human is not weakness. He is what we lost when we forgot how to feel. When we sterilized passion and turned love into law." She turned to Jackson, looked at him like there was nothing else in the room. "I choose him with my body, with my throne, with my future. And if this empire cannot accept that, then I will build a new one." With him, gasps. Some stood, some sat in shock. But then, one matron stepped forward, young, golden eyes bright. A new voice in the old system. "Then I stand with you." Then another. Then another. Done another. Half the council broke ranks. That was all she needed. The binding ceremony was broadcast across the system. Billions watched as Empress Soraya Veltraxis bound her psychic essence to Jackson Rain, the first human consort. And now, by law and flame, co-sovereign of the empire. Their minds linked. Their pulses matched. And in that moment, under the light of twin moons and a billion stars, something new was born. Not just a marriage. Not just a revolution. A future. Years passed. Veltraxis changed. Slowly, then all at once. New policies, new technologies, new children, half human, half Veltraxi, with minds like steel and hearts like fire. The old generation grumbled. The new generation worshipped, and Jackson. He adjusted. He sparred with palace guards, danced with off-world ambassadors, occasionally punched arrogant diplomats from Dravari space, and every night he returned to the one thing that still left him breathless. Her Soraya remained fierce. But where once her gaze had been cold with duty, now it softened when it met his. Her empire didn't break when she chose him. It bloomed that they ruled not through fear but through unity, passion, partnership. And when their daughter was born, teeny, glowing with a will strong enough to bend metal in her sleep, Jackson held her in trembling hands and whispered, "You have no idea how powerful you're going to be." Soraya leaned over, her fingers brushing his, her voice a murmur against his skin. "She will reshape the stars." "She's already started," he smiled. "She reshaped me." And far beyond the palace, in quiet corners of the galaxy, the story was told of a human who touched the mind of a goddess and made her feel, of a queen who opened her heart and found a king she never knew she needed, and of the night everything changed when a man walked into an alien mind duel and came out with a throne, a lover, and a legacy that would echo through galaxies. Humanity. F***, yeah, ***, and love, even louder. The end.